Hello and welcome to Lesson 1, Year 10 Physics. This lesson is for both double science and triple science pupils. What you're looking at now is the front cover of the first booklet. For double science, there are 5 booklets altogether. You can see them listed here. We're starting today on 1 of 5, electric circuits, and we'll be working through the remaining 4 over the next year. So all you need to do for now is just fill in the front of your booklet, press pause, form, set and teacher as was when school closed in March. Remember, this is physics, so you'd write down your physics teacher. Okay, you can see all the pages are numbered underneath. On page 2, which is what you're looking at here, really important page. You'll find this page on the second page of every booklet in physics because it's the second page you'll have in your examination. It's a list of all the equations you'll be given in the exam with, on the right hand side, what we call prefix and multipliers, which you'll be learning through the course. What this tells you then is that you haven't got to remember these different equations, but you have to apply them. And that's really what physics is usually about, is applying ideas and concepts. However, in today's first lesson, there is a fair bit of memory and recall, because to start our first topic on electricity, we're going to have to remember some symbols, circuit symbols. But before we get on to that, you notice we've got higher and foundation. So for higher tier, you can get from an A star to a C, for foundation to a C. Now, there are slight differences in the syllabus for higher tier and for foundation tier pupils, which we'll explain as we go along. And there are usually more equations to have to learn for higher tier. Hence the 2 different tables. Page 3 is for teacher feedback, close gap marking, and we're going to start lesson 1 today then on page 4. So if you could just write lesson 1 and date at the top, write down today's date. Today's learning objectives, well, it's really about learning and be able to draw these circuit symbols or circuit diagrams. So if we look at the first one, for example, that's the symbol, that's the name of the symbol. Okay, so I'll just highlight what it is today we're going to be learning. And we're also going to use the symbols in an electrical circuit. I will do that straight away, but just before we start, quick word on why we use, what's the purpose of them? Well, the purpose of circuit symbols, it makes it easier to draw a bulb, for example. So we've got a bulb or a lamp here, using a cross and a circle, rather than trying to draw a bulb. And I'm not the best artist, but to draw a bulb would take a fair bit of time. And I should have drawn that bulb more accurately using, you could just use a ruler to smarten things up a little bit. But you can see It's easier to draw a symbol than it is to do a freehand sketch of a symbol. The other advantages of using symbols is that they're understood across the world. So an electrician or scientists in Wales would use the same as in New Zealand and all the countries around the world. So it's quick and understood. Let's just look at this first activity, and it's one that I'm going to ask you to complete. I'm going to start it. It says symbols that represent electrical components or allow us to produce quick and easy to follow up circuit diagrams. Below shows one of these diagrams. See if you can name the parts that make up this circuit. So I'll pick an easy one. It's a wire. And I just told you the answer to this one. That's a lamp. What I'd like you to do, and I'll put a little red asterisk, is to complete those two. If you're unsure, just rewind the video and look back here at the table of the different symbols. Okay, moving on. It's asking you to look at the diagram of the torch, which I'll just highlight. So it's this here. So look at this diagram and produce a circuit diagram using circuit symbols. It should take less than 2 minutes to create. So this is a case in point why we use circuit symbols. That's quite a complicated diagram to draw, so we're going to simplify it. And what I'd like you to do now is, in this area here, is for you to attempt to draw that circuit similar to this example up here. You don't need to label the different components this time. And if you could pause the video while you're doing that, I'll then draw in the final answer, and I want you then to, underneath, compare yours to the final answer, and underneath explain 2 ways in which your first attempt at drawing the circuit diagram could be incorrect, or in other words, how could you improve your circuit diagram. So if you could just pause now. Okay, let's draw this diagram. Well, if we look at the torch, I will take a component at a time. Here's 2 cells. Technically speaking, 2 cells make a battery. So we can draw those 2 cells at the bottom here. Let's change colour. Use a ruler to smarten things up a little bit. Right, I just paused the recording there for a moment to complete the final answer of the circuit diagram. So let's just take a moment to see how that diagram of the torch relates to the circuit diagram underneath. So just colour in a few components. So there's the battery of cells yellow. The bulb itself, let's use a lilac colour. And let's choose a different colour for the switch. Go green for the switch, and you can see the switches there. So just take a moment to see how we've gone from a complicated diagram of the torch and then turned it into something far more straightforward and understandable through the power of symbols. We use symbols in everyday life. You've seen these type of symbols, laugh out loud, I believe, or by the way, or emojis. We use them in chemistry, AU for gold, AG for silver, and so on. Okay, so just get the idea of why we use symbols. What's the purpose? You can then, I'll just asterisk here in red. You complete that for 2 ways in which you could have improved yours. Did you use a ruler? Did you choose the correct symbols? Did you put them in the right order? Did you use a pencil? Always do your circuit diagrams in pencil, please. Underneath is your next activity. I'll read it. It says, using the interweb, or better known as the internet, books or other sources, your next task is to produce an A3 sheet that contains the following circuit symbols. An A4 sheet is fine, and I want you to paste that A4 sheet or A3 sheet onto page 5, just fold it over onto page 5 here, and just create a table. And all you need in the table will be the symbol and the diagram. So if you write the name of the symbol in the first column and the diagram in the second. So if I choose ammeter and lamp, well, let's go for a resistor. That's choosing that symbol or diagram, and for the resistor, you can see that's further down. It's here. Okay, so if you can do that for every single one of these symbols, or I should say, they're called components. They're all called components. Every single one of these components, that will be your main task. That's why I put a red asterisk there. That'll be your main task for lesson 1. Moving on then to page 6, there is another activity here for you to do as well, but I'll start it for you. What you're being asked to do is to turn that circuit into a circuit diagram using the correct symbols. This is a circuit that you're going to have to learn. It's called an Ohm's law circuit. Don't worry about that at the moment. you have to understand a few things. First of all, that we always put the ammeter in series. That means it's in the same loop as the component we're testing. Now the component we're testing always goes here. Component under test. Now those of you that know what a resistor will look like, you'll realise that there, for example, will be part of our diagram up above. So we've got an ammeter in series. That means it's in the same loop as the resistor in this case. And we've got a voltmeter in parallel. In other words, it goes across the component. Look at the spelling of parallel. So you see this voltmeter, it goes across that component, which I'm highlighting in yellow. We're going to learn a lot more about these two words, series and parallel, in future lessons. So don't worry too much about that. Going back to today's activity. In replacement of not having a handout, all I want you to do is to draw that diagram here using symbols. So we've got 3 batteries at the top. So that's the first thing you will do. Notice that you've got the positive on the right hand side and you've got the negative on the left hand side. So the long line symbolizes the positive. And there's the let's zoom in a bit. There's the positive there on the Duracell battery or cell. So I go up. Okay, so put in the 3 cells. Next, let's work clockwise. So we'll go down this direction. Then we've got an ammeter, then a resistor, and a variable resistor. Here's a variable resistor. Look, it's a resistor, same symbol, and then all you do is draw an arrow through it, making it a variable resistor. And just connect up components. Okay. Just missing now the voltmeter. The voltmeter always goes in parallel with a component under test. And that should be job done. Always make sure there's no gaps. There's a little gap there, just filled it in. Next activity is for you to draw that Ohm's law circuit, but this time I'm making a slight change. Component under test is not a resistor, but a lamp. A component under test is a lamp. So this is one for you to do. Pause the video and put your answer in there. Don't worry if you get it wrong, because what I want you to do then is compare yours to the correct version that I'll be drawing in there. Okay, pause the video. So, if you can just compare your circuit here to the one on the right hand side. Make sure you've used a ruler, make sure you've got the component. Oh, I'm missing something important, just realised. This is a variable resistor. The component under test this time was a lamp. So the only difference between that and that are the two components in the test. That one's a resistor and this one here is a lamp. You've got to learn that Ohm's law circuit. Finally, just a quick recap on those two words. We'll be using a lot more next week. It says, notice that the ammeter is connected within the main body of the circuit. It is connected in series. New words for today. And you'll notice that's been highlighted in green above. The voltmeter has been connected across a component. Here is a resistor. It is connected in. I'm going to pause, think about what the right answer is. Okay, the right answer is parallel. Try again. 2 L's, 1 L. That's the end of lesson 1. Go back through the pages, make sure you've completed everything where there's a red asterisk. Let's just double check. Yeah. Remember, do that on A4 paper. Should have done that one as we're working through. Okay. And when you've done that, to assess yourself, go on to Study Zone, where you've accessed this video, and look at the free science lesson video and do the self-assessment quiz. That's it for this lesson. See you next time. Bye.